Welcome back to Wealth Mavericks, the podcast where we help doctors unlock the secrets to building generational wealth. And today we're talking marriage and money and why being on the same team is so important.
Making the decision to get on the same page is the most important decision. No tactic is going to combat someone who's unwilling to do that.
You can either let the past weigh you down or you can let your desired future pull you forward. And the most successful people in life are always forward thinking. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Erin and I am joined today by Joe Arioto. And today we're talking about marriage and money and sharing some practical steps couples can take to get on the same financial page. In working with our members, we see firsthand how some couples function really well as a financial team, but many don't. And the most common situation we see is one person handling all the money and the other person knowing very little or nothing about it, either because they have no desire to or because they've never been invited to. And other times, couples have different spending styles, risk tolerance, or goals. But like most things in marriage, it usually comes down to communication. So today we want to talk about why this happens, why it matters, and how couples can start working together financially. So Joe, I was inspired to talk about this topic with you in particular because you were just a guest on your wife's podcast, and I enjoyed that so much. And this is one of the topics you guys talked about. There's obviously a lot you two do right. And while every relationship is different, there are some universal truths here when it comes to being on the same team as a couple. So after 26 years of marriage, what is something that you and your wife have learned about being on the same team, especially when it comes to money?
It's fun to be able to talk about this. And I wish that we had more time on that podcast to talk about this topic because finances is such a touchy subject for so many people. So I think the first step or like tip that I'd give is like, just get on the same side of the table. So many people it becomes an adversarial relationship around the topic of money. And I don't know if it's because opposites attract or whatever it might be, but it's like you tend to find similar things. Like one person is the spender, one person is the saver, one person is hyper focused about money, one person is their head in the sand about it. And understandably, that can be really frustrating for both parties. If you're the spender, you don't want to have all these ties. And oftentimes we'll see that it's like, well, we deserve this. Like we make all this money, like we're doing really well. I should be rewarded for that. Or I've delayed gratification for so long. I'm tired of that. I want to do these things that I want to do. Or you only live once, YOLO, right? So it's like, we got to enjoy this. So you get that person who feels held back by the person who's the saver, focused on every penny. Flip it around and look at it from the other perspective. It's like, we can never get ahead. We're always going to be in this position if we don't take care of this. So I guess you could guess, I have a lot more attachment to the spender side of things. So I think the first thing is ask yourself this question: can I understand the value of the other person's perspective? And I think if you can approach things first from that perspective, can I understand the value that they bring with their perspective around money? That at least helps you to get on the same side of the table. If everything is an argument about money, and by the way, not that this goes without saying, but like, go talk to somebody about this. Like, it's not a weakness to go get help specifically around this. And money is like one of the main drivers for divorce. Like a huge percent of divorces are really stemmed back to money. So don't do that. That's catastrophic in your world. So if you're finding yourself in that position where you're like, money's constant topic of frustration and angst and anger and voices being raised and that kind of thing, go talk to a licensed therapist about this. They can help give you tools to navigate those conversations. So I would say, like, from like just a very high level, if from a mindset perspective, can I just understand the world from their perspective and recognize the gifts that person brings to that conversation rather than just being frustrated about it?
Right. So I think in most marriages, you guys put it as pink rolls and blue rolls. Something like killing spiders is a blue roll and whatever is a pink roll. But I think in the best marriages, things are 50-50 or, sometimes it's 70-30, or, you work together well, but some things inevitably just become, oh, this is my job, this is your job. And when it comes to money, I think that is the case in most marriages. Like if you ask who handles the finances, the bill paying, all of that, it's one or the other. And when that happens, the other person is oftentimes just in the dark. So how can you remedy this in a very practical way if you are in that situation where one person handles the money and the other person is totally in the dark? And then we can talk about there's some risks with that too.
Yeah. Well, I'll say, when we talk about pink roles and pink jobs and blue jobs, it's like in different relationships, like it's not male and female. It's
No.
like that. Nope, that's just a Joe job. That's what's going to happen. And also there's different, when it comes to money, like there's different times. So like when we were kind of like scraping by and trying to figure life out, I was good at handling the money during that time. I didn't like it, but I was good because I was like, we're scraping together, we're getting by. That would cause stress for Mandy in an undue way and be unproductive for her. When we moved into a more successful phase of life, it was better for her to do that because she's going to focus more on the minutia and the little details that will get us further ahead. I didn't need, not that I didn't need to pay attention to it, but it was like, that wasn't my skill set. So it could even shift like throughout the career and things that happen in your life. I think for those who are very successful and have a lot of money and who are doing well, right? Because we talk to a lot of people who they make a lot of money, but they're no further ahead financially. This is a very common thing, which produces a tremendous amount of shame, which I want to come back and I want to talk about that in a second. Remind me so I don't forget. But for those who are doing well and getting ahead, it is important to understand the lay of the land financially. And I've seen a lot of people, unfortunately, where, and I'll just use stereotypical, the husband took care of all the finances. The wife had no idea where anything is at, any of their assets, what's doing what. And then the husband dies. And there was no will set up. There's no trust set up. There's no one there to caretake what happened. And that to me is an absolute travesty. That candidly is like unacceptable. If you are the one who's holding the keys to the kingdom and you have not shared that with anyone else and you don't have a plan in place for your passing, stop immediately and take care of that. That has to be remedied. Do not leave your spouse in a position where they're now totally exposed. They have no idea where anything is. Like it's an unnecessary thing. And so I'd say, if you're that spouse who's totally in the dark about finances, be comfortable just asking about it. You don't have to be the end all be all, know everything about this, but you've got to at least be in the loop. So I think that's kind of the thing for people who are in that position. They are doing well, they're getting ahead. Make sure the other spouse is at least involved and understands something that's going.
I actually think that more of our listeners probably are in the other side of the boat where they handle the finances and they maybe want to include their spouse, but either they don't know a practical way to do that because it's like we have all these different accounts and logins and everything. It's like, where do I keep it all? But also I've heard this from several members where the spouse is just completely uninterested. And then when you try to sit down and talk about it, it's like, oh, I don't know anything about that, or I don't really care about that. How do you communicate that? Like, it's crazy to me that people don't understand, like, you could die tomorrow and then what mess you are going to be in. So I think, can you speak to those people? How do you
engage?
Yeah.
So if your spouse is not willing to engage, then create the plan. Okay, so what's the plan in case of my passing? And like, just to be like really cut and dry about it, if they pass away, you're going to be devastated, of course. But like in the realm of finances, you know where everything's at. So that's not an issue. In the event of your passing, they would be in a real world of hurt. So set them up for success, whether that's having a trust and a trustee who you trust, who can take care of those things and navigate that. That would be the simplest solution. Just have in case of emergency, break glass, in case of my passing, here's the book that you need. Here's who to call. Like, I really think it's important for people to do this if you care about your loved ones. And candidly, if you care about, the legacy of what you've built and poured into, then just make sure they're set up for success. Think about it a little bit ahead and just do that plan.
You wanted to say something about shame as well.
Yeah. So what I was going to say about that in particular, shame is like it's a terribly low frequency, if I can use that term, energy. And it's my understanding of it is one of the lowest feelings, and so many people feel shame around money. And I just know, like, as an entrepreneur, we've gone through seasons of harvest and we've gone through seasons of, sowing. And in those sowing seasons, if there's not a lot of harvest, it can be scarce. And so and as Mandy and I have looked back over our life, we're like, man, there are times we would definitely have done things differently. And so then you can start to feel shame about, like, we should be here, or we should be doing that, or we should have done that. That feeling of shame is not serving anybody well. It's like, it's a negative tool that brings you down. So doctors, I think, oftentimes are in the same boat. It's like, we invested all this money and all this time into our education and to put ourselves into this position in our career, and we're behind. When you look around other people your age and, like, we're behind, especially if you have successful friends and you look at their lives and it's just like, man, what did we do? And so I have spoken with a lot of our doctors who have expressed, I feel shame around money. And that's something that you need to work through. You don't have to perpetually hold on to that, mostly because there's a story behind that. The shame, I think, probably is coming from a story that you're telling yourself. And oftentimes, like, just rework the story.
Yeah.
That's all you need to do. Tell yourself a different story. And I think we've talked about this on the podcast before. Our brains don't know the difference between a lie and the truth. So if I say, don't look at this record, everyone's like, look at the record, even though I said, do not look at the record. You're forced to. Stories that we tell ourselves they only have the value that we attach to them.
Yeah.
You can tell yourself a different story. If you need to lie to your brain so that it's like, I put myself in a great position by going into $750,000 in debt and a decade behind because I can insert the blank. Like, what's the story that you can spin to positive? And I have found that so many people, when they rework that story, it truly changes something inside of them that then starts to reflect externally. So without being like too woo-woo about this, I'm just saying, if you're finding yourself living a story that's not serving you, tell yourself a different story about where you
Totally. It's as simple as saying, I did the best I could. And now I'm really proud of myself for making a decision to do something different moving forward, because that's the best you can do.
Yeah.
Another episode we're going to do in the future is talking about that. Like, you can either let the past weigh you down, or you can let your desired future pull you forward. And the most successful people in life are always forward thinking and, like, letting that better future pull them forwards. I love that point. Another thing I really liked you and Mandy talking about on the podcast was having computers, phones, everything accessible to your spouse. Like, you are connected on so many levels. The best marriages do not have secrets.
Yeah.
And this is definitely an area where I read a stat that was like 50% of married people say that they've committed financial infidelity, meaning that they've hidden something, or they're hiding debt, or they're spending money on something that their spouse doesn't know about, or they have a secret account. And it's one thing to have your own account where, you can buy gifts, or, go to the spa or whatever. Like, you can have your own money, but to be hiding something from the other is a problem as well. So
Yeah.
what do you have to say about that?
And I feel strongly about this. And like you said, the marriages that I've seen that seem to be very healthy have aligned with this. And I get that it's not the only way to do things. But from what I can see, secrets do not serve anyone well. And when you start talking about your money and my money, that is not a togetherness. So if you want to have a productive, happy, healthy marriage, then I'd encourage you to look at everything as a partnership. Like, you are together in this. So yeah, I mean, it's funny. It's funny that that's controversial to me. I'm like, I don't know why this is controversial. Like, you share everything with this person. Mandy said it, and it was kind of not explicit, but whatever. It's like, you'll let him inside your body, but you won't let him in your phone.
That line.
That's crazy. And so I think that's happening a lot. And especially with these devices, it's like your own little world. And you create this own little world that you alone get to be in. I just don't think it's healthy. And not that I don't think you need to, like, check on your spouse just, to check up on them and see, but having access to it, like, it's crazy to me that, Mandy's face unlocks my phone. Like, we both have our face on. It's like, how is that weird? I don't know why that's weird.
I didn't know that was a thing, that you could have multiple faces
Faces.
to open the
Yeah,
phone.
totally.
But I liked how she said, where I don't need to check in on you because I trust you completely. And I feel very lucky that I have a marriage like that too. But just knowing that I could go in at any time
Yeah.
is very important. And that's the same with finances in my marriage. Like, I've always enjoyed handling it, but we talk about it all the time. Like, if you ask Dave, like, what is, how much do we have, or what have we spent on this? Like, he can tell you. It's just that I manage the actual. And that's something else I find, is that some people love talking about money and focusing on money. And then others are like, I don't even want to look at it. We've been asking, as we put together, which we're going to talk about in the next episode, as we put together these plans, like, where are you on a scale of 1 to 10 when it comes to knowing how much you spend or where your money goes? And so often it's like, I'm a 2 out of 10. I'm a 3 out of 10. I have no idea. And so it's not like, oh, I can't get ahead. They're getting ahead by putting into retirement but like, when it comes to their discretionary, it's just, as Bob says, flowing over the riverbanks and just absorbing.
Yes.
Instead of going toward a purpose. Talk about that, like being aligned on your goals. Like, oftentimes people have very separate goals, or worse, they don't even have any goals. So why is it important to focus on the why of building this wealth?
Well, we live in a very consumeristic society, and there are literally trillions of dollars that are trying to grab our attention. And I mean, I fall prey to this all the time. I have so many, I have all these hobbies and all these things that I want to do. Like, I've got like $20,000 worth of spending I want to do like next week on just my hobbies, just hobbies.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me, what I have to do to keep that at bay is to recognize, okay, what's the bigger purpose? Am I going to extract that? For example, I'm an avid skydiver. By the way, do you know how you can tell if someone's a skydiver almost immediately?
You talk about it all the time.
They'll tell you, right? So a proper skydiving rig for what I want to get is like a $10,000 investment.
Mm.
And I'm like, I see him. I'm like, oh, that looks really cool. And I think the story in my mind goes, if I buy that, I'm going to feel happy about that purchase and I'm going to enjoy that. And the truth is, very few things that you purchase bring any kind of lasting joy. And I mean, for most people, it's fleeting. I mean, it's like the next day you're like, yeah, cool, that's cool. So I think that's part of the issue, is that we believe, especially in our society, if I just buy this next thing, there's going to be some joy or happiness that I experience. And the truth is, it's probably not. So keeping focused on your why. So here's why I would not buy that, and instead take those dollars and put them over here, funding my future and funding what truly I believe will bring me joy, because that's aligned with my values. I know we don't talk about it a lot, but like, our process of engagement with our members is we have a conversation with them about their values, what's truly important to them. And I think it's a very eye-opening for people for a lot of different reasons, but one of them is we just often don't take the time to reflect at the level that we ask them to reflect. So it's like, what's the deepest seated things? That becomes your why for moving forward. Then we talk about their goals. What are the goals that are going to bring you happiness and joy and all that? That's like setting things up concrete, and then focusing, keeping your focus over there rather than these little diversions of dollars, like Bob says, flowing over the banks of the river, because it's just getting absorbed into, honestly, it's getting absorbed to the consumerism machine that's designed to extract as much as it can from you. So if you don't do that, that's where the money is going to flow. If you find happiness from that and that brings you joy, knock yourself out. Have a budget for that kind of spending.
Right. I was going to say, to be clear, we're not saying don't buy the things that will not enhance your life. When you buy that skydiving rig, that will enhance your life. And I do believe you will get even more joy from this. Like, over the past year, Dave and I have bought some things that we've wanted for a long time. Silly things, but like, now we look at them and we're like, that is awesome. And that enhances our life so much. And so I think we're talking more about just the frivolous, like, don't even think twice. That happens a lot, and it really compounds and adds up. But you also deserve to buy the things that, it's just have a plan. We always go back to have a plan and try to be aligned with each other. Okay, before we wrap this up, this made me think of something. You have you guys have a rule, like if I'm going to spend this much, we have to talk about it. But if we're going to spend under, and that has kind of changed over time. So what do you think when it comes to like asking permission or, because I think sometimes people feel very constrained. Like it's none of your business how much I spend, but like how do you approach that in your marriage?
Well, and yeah, of course that changes. Like, Mandy and I got married when we were 21 years old. And at that time, I think I don't know, I,
$10.
yeah, I couldn't imagine spending like $50 without talking to her first. You know what I mean? And it's funny, we were working as youth pastors and I had a bunch of different jobs but we were saving a lot of money at that time. It was funny looking back. So that number changes over time, but the concept I think can still be valuable. So I think asking your spouse, like, what is that number that you are uncomfortable with me spending without talking to you first? And it might be $10,000. I don't know what the number is for somebody. That's irrelevant. It's just, where does this need to be with my partner? And then the other thing that I'd say, because people have like an allergic reaction sometimes when we use the word budget, because budget feels constrictive or whatever, you got story around the word budget. If instead you just look at it as, what's my spending plan? What is my plan to spend? Where am I telling my dollars to go? So for example, in our world, I have an adventure budget per month. And it's a reasonable, some people look at it and say it's unreasonable budget, but for us, it's a reasonable amount of money that I can spend. And if I want to save that up for 3 months and all of a sudden I've got $3,000 to blow on something, cool. Like that's awesome. That's my discretion now. So I think that's probably a big thing for people, is like, just tell your money where it's going to go to serve you well, which would include spending money on things that you want.
Yeah. Okay, so as we wrap up, what's the one piece of advice you have to give people who are married and who are not on the same page yet financially?
Making the decision to get on the same page is the most important decision. No tactic is going to combat and someone who's unwilling to do that. So I think if you can't get on the same page about getting on the same page, that's when it's like, we need to go talk to somebody. Truly, you need to go get some help to figure out how to get on the same page. So as silly as that sounds, that is the first step. You have to make the decision to get on the same page. Otherwise, it could be a combative relationship throughout the whole process.
And I think for some people, it's doing the uncomfortable thing because that doesn't come naturally, or it's going to be a hard conversation, or the person is resistant, or whatever it is. But like, you always have to keep your eye on the prize. And when you can get to that point in your marriage, you will be wealthier and happier and just more at peace. So as with anything, it's worth the discomfort and the work. So
yeah.
Thank you for sharing everything you did. I think Kenny should link the episode we've been referring to because I so enjoyed it. And I think other people would too. So Rock, we hope you found this valuable. Thank you so much for being here. And until next time, go be a wealth maverick.